Good evening to those of you who are watching. This is homework number 36, and I might have to do this in parts again. This is part 1. Let's look at the area of circles and sectors and circumferences of circles. So number 1, we're told to find the area and circumference of the circle described. Exact, which means we'll leave pi as pi and any radicals as radicals. For number 1, the radius is 10. To find the area of a circle, we use the formula pi r squared. So pi times 10 squared. If I square this, I get 100 times pi, and that's the exact area for number 1. The circumference is equal to 2 pi r. This is still number 1. So the radius is 10. 2 pi times 10, that's 20 pi. The circumference is equal to 20 pi. Number 2. If the diameter of a circle is 10, then the radius is half of that. Remember, the radius is half the diameter, so the radius is 5. To find the area of the circle, pi r squared, pi 5 squared, which is 25 pi. That's the exact area of a circle with a diameter of 10. The circumference is equal to 2 pi r. It's equal to 2 times pi, and the radius is 5, so it's 10 pi, and that's the circumference. Number 3. The radius is 2 rad 3. The area is equal to pi r squared. So that's equal to pi times 2 rad 3 squared. That's equal to pi times, to square 2 rad 3, I square the 2, which becomes 4, and I square the rad 3, which becomes 3. 2 times 2 is 4. Rad 3 times rad 3 is 3. And so the area is 12 pi. The circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So that's equal to 2 times pi times 2 rad 3. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 rad 3 pi. Multiply what's on the outside, keep what's on the inside, and then pi. And that's the circumference, and this is the area. Number 4. Find the area of a circle with diameter square root of 10. So the area is equal to pi r squared. It's equal to pi. What is the radius? Well, if the diameter is the square root of 10, then the radius is the square root of 10 divided by 2. Remember, the diameter is twice the radius, so the radius is half of the diameter. So I'm going to say pi times square root of 10 over 2, that whole quantity squared. That's the radius, the diameter divided by 2. Well, that's pi times, this is equal to the square root of 10 over 2 times the square root of 10 over 2. That's how we square it. And the square root of 10 times the square root of 10 is 10, and 2 times 2 is 4. So that's pi times 10 over 4, and that's equal to, we can reduce 10 over 4 to 5 halves. So the final answer is 5 halves pi. And that's the area of that circle. Pi times the square root of 10 over 2, which becomes pi times 10 over 4, which is reduced to 5 halves pi. Now the circumference is equal to 2 pi times, and the radius again is the square root of 10 over 2. Remember, this is all in the denominator or the numerator. 2 times pi times the square root of 10 is all. These are whole numbers here. This is a whole number. These are up in the numerator. Nothing's being divided here until we get to the 2. So it's 2 times pi times square root of 10 over 2. I can cancel the 2's, and we get pi square root of 10, and that's the circumference. Number 5. The area of a circle is 16 pi. Find the radius and circumference. Well, area of a circle is pi r squared. We're given the area is 16 pi, and we're asked to find the radius. After we find the radius, then we can use that to find the circumference. So 16 pi is the area, pi r squared. I'm going to divide both sides by pi to get r squared by itself. I'm trying to get r isolated, trying to find the radius. So that cancels with that cancels with that, and we get 16 equals r squared. Well, to get r by itself, if it's squared, we take the square root of both sides, so we get 4 equals r. So the radius is 4. Now, to find the circumference, c equals 2 pi r. I'll put in the radius that we just found of 4. So that's 2 times 4 is 8 times pi. So the circumference is 8 pi. And that's number 5. Number 6. The circumference of a circle is 16 pi. Find the radius and area. So the circumference is equal to 2 pi r. And we're told that the circumference is 16 pi. So that equals 2 pi, and we're looking for the radius again. So 16 pi equals 2 pi r. I'll divide both sides by 2 pi to isolate the r. Those cancel, and we get r on the right side. And we can cancel off the pi, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. So the radius is 8 for number 6. The area of a circle is equal to pi times the radius squared. So the area of this circle is pi times 8 squared. That equals 64 pi. So the area of the circle is 64 pi, and the circumference and the radius is 8. Number 7. Now 7 and 8 are messy. Step by step. Number 7. The area of a circle is 64. Find the radius and the circumference. So we'll find the radius first and then use it to find the circumference. We're asked to find exact and rounded to the nearest hundredth. So the area of a circle is 64. Area equals pi r squared. The area given is 64, and we're to find r. We'll divide both sides by pi, and we get 64 over pi equals r squared. To isolate r, we'll take the square root of both sides. So take the square root of both sides. So r equals, well, this is the same thing as the square root of 64 over the square root of pi. The square root of 64 is 8, and the square root of pi, just leave as square root of pi. But we can't leave this as 8 over square root of pi equals r. We have to rationalize. So I'm going to take 8 square roots of pi and multiply both top and bottom by the square root of pi. You just treat it like a number, as if it was the square root of 2 or the square root of 3. So square root of pi times the square root of pi is pi, and at the top we get 8 square roots of pi. And that's the exact answer. That's the exact answer. Now, to get the approximate answer would be 8 times the square root of, that equals that, and then I'll divide by pi, and that equals 4.51. So the answer is approximately 4.51 for the radius. Now to find the circumference, I'm going to use the exact answer. So the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. The radius that we found, so 2 times pi, is 8 radical pi over pi. I'm just substituting in the radius that was found. We're multiplying here, so this is the same thing as this if it was over 1. So I can cancel the pi and the pi on the bottom. And 2 times 8 is 16, and we have the square root of pi. And the bottom here is just 1, so that's our answer for the circumference. 16 times the square root of pi. Now number 8 is similarly messy, with radicals and pi's that we're kind of unfamiliar with seeing them this way. Number 8. The circumference of a circle is 64. So the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. I'll put 64 in for the circumference, and we're asked to find the radius, and then we'll use that to find the area. So the circumference equals 2 pi r. 64 is the circumference. Let's solve for r. We'll divide both sides by 2 pi. So r equals 64 over 2 pi. This can be reduced. 64 and 2 can be reduced. That would be 32 over pi equals r, right? We can cancel, divide both by 2, and I get 32 over pi equals r. And there's the radius for this circle. I'm going to use this radius in the area formula. The area of a circle equals pi r squared. So the area is equal to pi times 32 over pi, this whole thing squared. Well, there's a few ways I could go about this, but I think I'll do it like this. Pi times 32 over pi times 32 over pi. I'm just going to divide that out. Multiply that out, I mean. So 32 times 32, well, let's cancel some pi's here. And we get 32 times 32 over pi. I'm going to use my calculator for that one. 32 times 32 is 1024 over pi. So the area of this circle is pi times the radius that we found squared. And I get 1024 over pi. And that is approximately 10,024 divided by pi, 325.95. So the area of the circle is approximately this. And I'm supposed to find the approximate value for the radius. I would need to take 32 and divide that by pi. And the approximate value for the radius is 10.18. Oh, excuse me, 10.19. But notice I used the exact answer to find the area over here, to find the exact area, and then I found the approximate. And remember, any errors that you point out to me earn you extra credit. Okay, number 9. Number 9 and 10 are finding the areas of sectors. I'm going to stop this video, and this is going to be part 2. I'm going to end this. This is the end of part 1, and I'll start the next bit on part 2.